Hi, this is Josh Fonger, and welcome to the Work the System podcast, where we help business owners move from owning a job to owning a business, mastering their systems so that they can simplify growth. And today I've got a special guest, Dr. Sabrina Starling. Dr. Sabrina Starling is the business psychologist and author of the How to Hire the Best series. She is the founder of Tap the Potential, and Tap the Potential specializes in transforming small businesses into highly profitable, great places to work, then sending business owners on a 4-week vacation to celebrate that accomplishment. With her background in psychology and years of driving profit in small business, Dr. Starling knows what it takes to find, keep, and get exceptional performance out of your biggest investment, which is your team members. All right, so Sabrina, I am very excited to talk to you today. I've got a lot of questions for myself personally, and I'm sure the audience does as well, and I'm going to try to channel those. But we want to figure out how to hire our best employees. But before we do, tell us how you got into this line of work.
Okay, so I was a psychologist working in a community mental health center in rural Wyoming. And because I wanted to have a life adventure, and that's how I ended up in Wyoming from Austin, Texas. And I was transitioning into coaching. This was about 14 years ago. And the people who were seeking me out for life coaching were small business owners. And it was because of the work-life balance. They were working 60, 80, 90 hours a week or more and really were struggling. And so, I was like, okay, I'll solve your work-life balance problems. And, then I got digging deeper in there, and I realized it's not work-life balance problem. They all want work-life balance. They're not workaholics because they want to be. It's because they don't have the team members that they can trust so that they can take time off from their business and work a more reasonable schedule. And as soon as I started talking to them about, let's look at the quality of your team and improving your team, they all wanted to take it from the standpoint of, here's the team that I've got. Use your psychology stuff, Sabrina, and make them better. Let's make them engaged employees and highly motivated. And that doesn't work. Like, you can't take a warm body. I can say it with absolute confidence, Josh. You cannot take a warm body and turn them into an A player. Can't be done. I've had the best business owners try it, and I feel like I'm a pretty good psychologist. So if anybody could have made it happen, these guys would have, and they didn't. So that approach out the window. Then I started looking at, okay, they need to hire A players. And as soon as I started talking to them about, you got to fire these folks and you got to get some better people on your team, I got tremendous pushback. Like, Sabrina, you don't know. We're in a rural area. Those A players don't exist. I have to make do with what I have. And so I was buying into that really kind of a trash talk in their head that they were putting out there, and I was buying into it. And then one morning, you know how you have that transition from sleep to wakefulness, and sometimes you have bright ideas, sometimes not. But that morning I had a bright idea, and it was more of a question. And the question was, what if it's not true? What if it's not true that because we're in a rural area, we can't find great employees in these small businesses? And that really started putting me on a quest to see if I could find business owners in rural areas who have great team members. And if they do, what did they do to get them on their team? And I thought, okay, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to interview these business owners, and it'll be great. And you know what happened? Crickets. No one would talk to me. and I was like, why? And it's not because I'm not a nice person or that they were ugly, mean business owners. It's because they all felt like they had no idea how they got these people on their team. So I really had to push and say, okay, you have a couple of great employees. Just tell me the story of how they came to work for you. And time again, that would get them finally to start talking to me. And as those stories unfolded, I realized there are patterns, that every one of them were doing the same thing to get these one or two great team members on their team, and that those things could be turned into, guess what? A system.
Oh, great. I was hoping you'd say that.
Yes.
All right.
So there's a system for attracting A players to a small business. And to me, that was powerful, because it wasn't so much that my end game was to help small business owners attract A players. My end game was to give these business owners a life and help them. These guys are working incredibly insane hours. Their health is suffering. Family relationships suffer. it's just one bad thing after another. And then if you're the hub in the business and everything revolves around you, and because you've worked all these long hours and you've neglected your health, and you have a heart attack or you have some other health crisis, then everything that you've worked for falls apart. So my end game is how to make a business that's sustainable, so that the business owner has a good quality of life and team members have a good quality of life. And oh, by the way, if we can make it profitable along the way, that's even better too, right?
This is great. Yeah, well, this is right up our alley. I'm sure the audience is going to really dig this. So what did you find out? What were the secrets? What was the consistent thing these owners actually did?
Okay, so there's a couple of things you need to know about psychology of A players to understand how the system works. Psychology of A players is A players hang together. So who introduced us, Josh?
Mike
Wayne.
McCallum. Or Wayne did.
Oh,
Wayne,
yeah,
right.
Wayne Mullins introduced
Okay, that's
Wayne's
right.
an A player. Wayne
He is. No, I love Wayne.
Shout
Yeah,
out
he's
to
great.
Wayne. Okay. But then our mutual connection beyond Wayne is Mike McCallowitz.
That's right.
Mike McCallowitz is an A player.
That's funny how that works. I didn't even see that. Okay.
That's how we A players roll. And that's how it works with hiring team members. If you have one A player on your team, and if it's only you, because there's a good chance it could be just you're the only A player in your business right now, you have a network of A players to tap into. And we have to utilize that A player network to attract more A players to the business. Now, some other things to know about A players. They really comprise about 10% of the population. So it's a very small percentage. And that's why it feels like when we're hiring, we're looking for a needle in the haystack, because they're such a small percentage. A players are hardly ever unemployed. So they are not reading help wanted ads. They are not trolling Indeed. They're not on Craigslist. They're employed elsewhere. So we have to use some ninja strategies to show up in their world. And the best ninja strategy we have for showing up in their world is social media, Facebook. So if you, as a small business owner, get intentional about making your business a great place to work, guess who wants to brag to all their friends that they work at a great business? Your A player team members. Oh, and if you happen to tag them in photos that you put on social media about all the cool things that you're doing as a team in your business, all the better, because now you're showing up in their world. And they have other A players that they are connected to in their world. So the best thing that you can do as a small business to become highly attractive to A players is to create a great place to work and understand what keeps an A player in your business, because retention and loyalty is where this is. This is where you're going to really explode profit. Payroll and turnover in a business will suck the profit right out of the business. But if you can attract A players to your team and keep them long-term, not only are you reducing the turnover costs and the payroll costs, you also are setting the stage to drive loyalty with your top clients and customers. And that's where the whole pumpkin planning piece comes in that I work with our clients on. So if we can drive loyalty with top clients and customers and with team members, you're losing the churn, the money that gets lost to churn, and how you have to attract new business to your business. And that's more expensive than doing business with existing clients and customers. And we're cutting out the payroll and the churn of employee turnover. Then you're positioned to be highly profitable, way beyond your industry peers in their profitability.
So it sounds like this is going to take some work. You have to actually roll up your sleeves. There's no shortcut. You have to actually.
No, I'm sorry, Josh.
Sorry. I was hoping for like a 5-minute solution. This is actually, so I have to make a great place to work. But it's so true. It said, I mean, the reality is true. And I've worked with some great places to work, and they have great teams. So let's get to some realistic examples. So let's say you have a company, let's just say you're a doctor's office. Let's say you're a chiropractor, and you've got 5 employees, and one of them is an A player, 3 of them are B, and 1's a C. Like, what do you do? Do you start to make the B's into A's, or you just say, forget about that? Let's just slowly over the years cycle out the C's and the B minuses and just work our way to A's.
Okay. So I don't want to scare anybody who's listening and if I tell you that you need to fire all those team members who are not A players, your listeners are going to run for the hills, or they're turning off the podcast, putting away the phone.
They want honesty. That's fine.
So I really find the best approach is a not so slow transition over time. So I don't want to imply this takes years and years, but the idea is we want to first become very intentional about supporting that one A player that you have in the business and understanding what's frustrating to that A player, because the last thing you want to do is lose that A player in this transition. So when you have a C or D player in the business, or multiple C or D players, that's really like spraying A player repellent all over the business, because no A player wants to be cleaning up behind somebody who's slacking off and not doing what they need to do. And that's the first thing that's got to go, is you got to support that A player and send a strong message. I am not going to tolerate bad behavior from other team members anymore because I value you. But you got to be careful with that too. You don't want to go too far, because then you get the entitled A player, which that's a whole other podcast episode.
Okay.
So, but then you get the C player or the worst team member, get them out of the business as fast as you can, and then hire up. So the strategy is every time you hire, you want to improve your odds of hiring right. So we need to understand that hiring is a skill set, just like every other skill set that we're learning in our business. And the more we can systematize our hiring, the better, because that takes human error out of the process. And we humans are the biggest error in this process. So the average business owner who follows traditional hiring practices is going to mishire 75% of the time.
Wow.
Because we just do what we think we're supposed to do. We have a need to hire. We throw an ad together. We do some interviews with the best of the people who submitted resumes, which might be the best of the worst. And then we interview those people and we feel like, okay, we had these 3 interviews. This one was okay and the other 2 were terrible, so I'm going to hire this okay person. That doesn't work. So we need to filter in that process. One book that I recommend beyond my book, How to Hire the Best, is the book Who by Jeff Smart. Mm-hmm. That is the system for hiring.
You have it right behind me somewhere. I read it years ago. It's a great book.
Yeah. And not only is it the system for hiring, he gives you all the questions to ask and the why behind the questions that you're asking. Get his book, get his free PDFs, downloads, and you're good to go. A lot of business owners spend way too much time figuring out what question should I ask during the interview. And I tell them, just go read Who. There's your questions right there. It's all done for you. So you're taking the strategy of hiring up. And that's what really starts to build the culture of the business, is that moment you draw the line in the sand and say, I will no longer tolerate bad employee behavior. And you let somebody go around that. That sends a message to the B players. Oh, we better perk up around here because Joe's serious. He's not going to put up with this anymore, or, whatever.
No, I couldn't agree more. That's people ask me when I do transformations and we put a new strategy in place. And they're like, well, I don't think employees are going to really like this new thing of putting systems in place. And I say, well, the number one way to make it stick, I've seen over the years, is if you fire someone for not doing it in the next 30 days, that's your best chance of having success with this program. People like to hear it, but it's just the reality. I mean, people need to know you're serious, and the mission comes first, the principles come first, the business comes first. And if they don't see that, actually, one gal where she actually fired her brother. And once everyone saw that she was willing to fire her brother who'd been there for 10 years, they're like, oh, wow, she's serious. And then everything went great after that.
Yeah.
It does matter.
Yeah.
Got to be bold. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's scary for some folks, but I think, it's the reality. People don't think you're serious until they can see it. So,
yeah.
So what do you do? So what about, I wanted to ask you about personality profiling, personality testing. Is there any particular tests you like or things you think are important during the hiring process to make sure you have A players?
Okay. So the personality testing is really interesting. You got to be careful about which test you use pre-hire, because you can get in some hot water legally if you're using tests that are not normed and validated. And a lot of personality tests that are out there. I mean, there's a slew of personality tests available on the internet. Every other week, someone asks me, I'm thinking about using this as part of my pre-hire process. What do you think about it, Sabrina? And I'm like, I've never heard of it. And I can't find any statistics on reliability and validity when I look at it on the internet. So that's scary.
Mhm.
In general, a small business that does not have a dedicated HR probably is not in a position to use pre-hire personality tests. When you're getting to the point of about 10 employees on up to about 20 and beyond that, that's when you're in a position to use good personality measures pre-hire. So if you're not in that position, what I recommend that you do is to think through the personality characteristics that are needed to do the job exceptionally well, day in and day out. That means we have to do some legwork first, because we have to clearly define the role that you're hiring for and the one result that if that person doesn't get anything done for you in a given day or a given week, but they get that one thing done, they're contributing to the business and the profitability with that one thing. So we've got to find out what that one result is, and then think through what are the personality characteristics that somebody needs to deliver that one result day in and day out exceptionally well. So the best example I can give of this is I worked with a startup entrepreneur a few years back, and he had a food product that he was selling at a kiosk in the mall. And he was having tremendous success selling that product because he was extroverted, very outgoing. He would make his product, stand in the kiosk, and people would pass by in the mall, and he would, hey, come on over here and try this. I've got something, you'll really like it. And he could do that day in and day out. It gave him energy. It was wonderful. He was an extrovert. So when he got to the point where he couldn't handle doing everything anymore, and he needed somebody to stand in the kiosk while he made the product, he started hiring his buddies. His buddies were all introverts. And they would do really well for the first hour. And then after that, they would start getting on their phones, turning their back to the traffic walking by, all the things introverts do. I'm an introvert, by the way, so I know, I get it. All the things they were doing to recharge their batteries. So they did not have the personality traits that were needed in that role to do it exceptionally well, day in and day out. It doesn't take personality testing for us to figure these things out as business owners in our business. What it does take is we have to get super clear on what that one result is for that role. And that's really where things can go off track, because when we go to hire in our businesses, we've been doing everything. So we try to find somebody who's like us, who can do everything. There's a couple of things we have to realize about that. We haven't been doing everything as well as we think we have. We suck at a lot of things.
Yep.
We've been getting by. And when we hire somebody who can do those other things exceptionally well, and we give them one thing to focus on, and if it's in their area of strength, they're going to totally blow us out of the water with how we've been doing that. So when we start looking for, I need somebody who's really good with people and who's detail oriented and who can work QuickBooks and who wants to do my social media.
Good luck.
No, that's why you can't find those folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So narrow it down.
Well, then that kind of leads me to the next question. So in this hyper specialization market, this might make more sense for online companies compared to traditional ones. Do you recommend having lots of individual experts do lots of specific things as contractors, or are you more of we should hire a global person who kind of just does a number of things because then we can count on them 40 hours a week?
I think you can guess where I'm going to go with this.
You tell me.
I believe hiring people around their specialty, and especially when you're growing an online business, it's the greatest opportunity you have to keep things profitable, is to hire people for the hours that you need, rather than trying, you need somebody and you got to find things to do to fill 40 hours a week for them. Hire them for what you need, for the hours that you need in their zone of strengths.
Yep. I'm actually working on that right now. Kind of a little shout out to the world. We're actually looking for a social media expert assistant to do podcasts, things like this, kind of be the producer of these things. And we'll see. For me, what I like to do when I hire, I like to always go through referrals. And so over the last 2 weeks, I've just been kind of asking around, because that's my number one screening process, is to find somebody who already likes working with somebody. That's step one.
Exactly how to hire the best strategy is intentional networking. If they are somebody that's doing well for somebody else in your network, and somebody else that is having a good experience with them, there's a good chance you're going to be pleased with their work too. Yeah,
I always start that. Also, I read this book, I think it was by Cameron Harold on from 1-800-GOT-JUNK, about how he'd get at least 100 resumes it was 100 to 1. So 100 resumes to one good hire as he was scaling out his business. And then I realized, wow, it really takes a lot. Actually, this leads me into my next question. So what about for careers or positions that are not glamorous? I've got a client that actually does part of her business is a moving company, and being a mover is not the most exciting job. Or like a like a lower level job at a restaurant, a dishwasher. Like, what if you consistently need to hire those kind of things? Are you ever going to find A players? Is it even worth looking for A players in those kind of jobs?
Yes. A players exist at every level in a business. And what A players are about, and we should back up and define what an A player is. So an A player is a go-getter who I believe walks around with the unspoken question of how can I serve or how can I help? Mm-hmm. We put on a retreat here at my home, the Entrepreneurs Retreat Center called Breakthroughs on the Bayou. And this past March, and I brought in help to, have someone here to clean after the retreat and make sure to open the door for the caterers and that sort of thing. This man was amazing. Any time that there was a need, he was there and he was like, what can I do? What do you need? That's an A player. And he is a part-time employee for a cleaning service that I hired. And I found him through the A player network, by the way. That's, kind of that same networking strategy. So A players are showing up, wanting to help, wanting to serve. They have that bigger vision. They are problem solvers. So they're not the ones who come to you as the business owner and say, I hit a roadblock. I couldn't log into your Facebook account to do your social media, Josh. So it just didn't get done. Sorry. I was waiting for you to get back and give me the password. They're going to go ask somebody else on the team, hey, does anybody know the password here to get in? Because I'm supposed to do this and I can't get in. They're going to keep working at it to try to figure it out. Mm-hmm. A players also are interested in growth opportunities. So when we have these roles in our businesses that are not glamorous, or we have businesses that do things that are not glamorous, we need to be thinking through what opportunities do we have for someone to have a career here with us? And if they're not going to have a lifelong career with us, what can we offer them that will move them further in their life towards their hopes and dreams? And that's where we really move from a transactional relationship to a mutually invested relationship. So a transactional relationship is you show up, you work, I pay you the hourly wage for that work. A mutually invested relationship is you show up, you help support my goals and my vision for the business. I, in turn, want to know about you and what your goals and your hopes and dreams are, and I'm going to look for ways that I can support you in achieving those. And I think the best example of this is I had someone that I worked with a while back, and he had a pooper scooper type business, and he hired college students. Mm-hmm. And, convincing college students that it's great to get out there and scoop poop in people's backyards. He had no problem attracting team members, and he had lots of things that he did. But one of the things that he did is he supported them in their hopes and aspirations. He charged more for his service, and he positioned that to his customers that we're hiring college students. They're putting themselves through college, scoop and poop in your yard, and they're feeding themselves while they're paying their college tuition with this job. So I pay them more than minimum wage. And so his customers were happy to pay him more for the service. So you have to kind of work both sides of this with your customers and clients.
That's very interesting. Well, I've got like a list of 50 questions here. I'm trying to figure out which one to ask you next. So let's go to reality. So let's say the reality is you have a B or C player and you are related to them. That's your spouse, right? Let's just say.
Oh, your spouse, it's even worse.
Yes. Well, I've had this happen many times. So if you're in that situation, what is your recommendation? How do you steer through that situation?
Very, very carefully. So the first thing that you have to be mindful of is there's a family relationship, a marriage there, and a business relationship. And ultimately, it's going to be up to the client to decide which is more important. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and the outcome could go either way. It doesn't really matter which is more important, but you need to know which is more important first. So if the marriage is more important, then the conversation becomes, I value our marriage so much. I don't want you in the business anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's a tough conversation.
So, but what happens in these family businesses is inevitably there will be B, C, D team members who are family members that have just kind of been along for the ride. That is repelling those A players that you need to hire to grow the business. And you do have to take a firm stand. We're not going to have that going on. Everyone who works in this business is going to follow, how we do things here. No one's getting special treatment, and every role needs to have accountability. So results that they're responsible for. And if someone is not hitting those results, they will no longer be employed with the business. So this is a transition, and it's rocky. Every business that we take through this transition loses people, sometimes long-term employees. So the way I start it with a business owner is it's going to get better. It's going to be about a year of transition, and there's going to be a lot of bumpy spots and uncomfortable moments. That's what we're here to support you through. We do know what's on the other side, but be prepared coming in. So it's really inoculating them. Mm-hmm. I've been at this long enough to know if I tell entrepreneurs, you're going to work with us and it's all going to be unicorns and roses. And, they're, as soon as they hit a challenge, they're going to bail. And yep. So I think if we're realistic with them going in, their chances of success are much higher.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Well, a lot of people who, I work with Sam Carpenter, the author of the book, Work the System, and he tells me all the inner secrets of what happened as he transitioned his business and kind of systemized. And one of the things people don't realize is that, well, first off, one critical thing is systems stay. Employees come and go, but systems stay. But when he had the epiphany to change his business, during that next year, every employee that he had there, I think except for one, all of them left. So once they realized we're going to do things different, they were all removed and replaced over that next year, and with A players. But it took, that was part of the reality. Things weren't just going to change with a good idea. They had to have different people there.
No. And I'm a firm believer in, because we have a podcast too, Profit by Design podcast, and we tell the real life school of hard knocks stories of small business owners, because there's so much out there on the internet that would lead us to believe that entrepreneurs live in nice houses, drive nice cars, and vacation at the beach, or live at the beach. And I think that's a false expectation. And if we're not realistic about, yes, we can do great things as an entrepreneur, but there's going to be some hard spots, I think we're setting people up to fail.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. What about, this is a question I get all the time, is money. So I'm thinking of one particular client, it's a dental office. So they want to hire great players. They have a new strategy. They have a lot of B and C players, but they feel like they don't have enough money to pay an A player salary. So what do they do?
Oh, there's lots of ways around this. This is where most of my clients were when I started helping them with this problem. So I think where you want to start is you want to know what the 90th percentile is for your geographic area for that position. And you also want to know what the 75th percentile would be and the 50th percentile. Okay, so the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS.gov, that's where you can go to find some data to start giving you that information. Your local job service office can give you information on that too. Mm-hmm. So when you're hiring, if you can put your salary or wage that you're going to pay around the 65th percentile, so it's a little more than the going wage in that area, but not so much that it's going to blow your payroll and your ability to pay that. And then as you are laying out for them a career growth plan during the interview process, so you lay out, you come on board, you're at the 65th percentile, and that equates to this wage. If you hit this performance target in 3 months, we're going to bump you up this much. And if you hit this performance target at 9 months, we'll bump you up here. And if you're here at a year, then we bump you up here. And over the course of maybe 3 years with us, if you're hitting all your performance targets, now you're in the 90th percentile of pay for this role, and you have the opportunity to grow with us. But you have to lay that out. And I really believe in having this documented for them on paper so they can see it. It does nothing. It means nothing to them for us to say, we're going to pay you at the 90th percentile in 3 years. They'll be like, who knows what that means?
Right.
You have to put that in real dollars and show them a real path to get there. If you do that, and then on the back of that paper, you have your A players talking about why they love working for you. So some A player endorsements for your place to work.
Mm-hmm.
And they leave that interview with that in hand and put it on brightly colored paper, make it scratch and sniff, whatever, so that it really stands out to them. You've positioned yourself now as very different from every other employer that they've interviewed with. Because every other employer gives lip service to, yeah, we have opportunities to grow here.
But you have a specific plan. Okay.
Yeah, a specific plan. And when you have that specific plan, you can get away with paying a couple dollars less than your competitor who might be a larger company down the road, because they've said, yes, we'll bring you in at this wage, and there's opportunities to grow. But that applicant now has a clear, tangible path to grow. And it's not just empty promises.
What other thing can a small business do? Because obviously big companies, they can typically give retirement packages and healthcare and 401k and all these other things. What other thing can a small business do to differentiate and hire good talent who is going to work for a company that can pay them more? Is there any other techniques that you have?
So many things. So take all the things that feel like they're deficiencies as a small business, and we turn them into strengths. And one of those is work-life balance and flexibility. When you work for a small business owner, they're much more likely to let you, juggle your schedule so you can go to your kid's baseball game.
Okay.
That doesn't happen in corporate America. The other thing is that you have the opportunity to really advance your career in a small business much more rapidly than you do in corporate America. So in a small business, you can come in and you can be the front desk person. And in 2 years' time, if you're an A player, you might be the VP of admin or the VP of, operations, who knows? Mm-hmm. And so that ability to scale in responsibility and pay is what appeals to A players. So absolutely tout that. And here's my other thing that we recommend. We're profit first people. So we have all of our businesses building their profit in a profit first account, getting all the team involved in making the business profitable. Use that as a loyalty incentive. So if you're here with us after 3 years' time, you get to have a share in the profit distributions that we do. That goes into a loyalty account, and you get to draw a portion of that out every year. And meanwhile, it builds up. But that becomes an added benefit. You're not giving it right away. You're making them prove themselves that they're really going to be A players and be with you long term before you offer that kind of benefit.
Yeah, I really like that. Profit sharing. I try to make that happen. It's tough to do. That's a great method for doing it. Well, because of our time, I want to get to a couple other questions that are pertinent to what you do, which is this 4-week vacation idea. I saw this on your website, and I wanted to ask you, so what is the reason why, and how do entrepreneurs actually make that happen?
Okay. So my big why for this goes right back to, my early years working with business owners and seeing them work their tails off and not taking care of themselves. But what happened for me is that 5 years ago now, I got pregnant with my second child, which was unexpected. I didn't know we were going to have another baby in the family. And I wanted to take a maternity leave because with my first child, I was starting my business. She was 4 weeks old when I started my business. And I did not want to have that same experience again. I really wanted to enjoy the time with my daughter. And so I just one morning woke up and said, this is it. I'm doing something different. And I don't know how I'm going to make it work, but I'm going to make it work. And I want to take a 9-week maternity leave. Wow. So I had 4 months to make a 9-week maternity leave happen. I was pretty much a solopreneur at that time. And this is where systems come in. If you have systems in your business, it's much easier to be away from the business and have things hum along without you. I had some pretty good systems, so I was able to make it work. And the business continued to do all essential operations while I was out for 9 weeks. But here's the deal. I did that, and then I came back and I went right back in to doing everything that I had been doing before. It never dawned on me that, oh my gosh, I have this newfound freedom from my business. I should continue to build on that. So when Mike came out with Clockwork, The 4-week vacation is something that I've always wanted. To me, it has seemed like that's the ultimate for a business. Where business really has value when it does not require you for the essential operations. And 4 weeks is a complete business cycle. Money comes in, sales comes in, money collected, service delivered. That whole process can happen in the course of 4 weeks. So if a business can do that, then there is this freedom for the entrepreneur, and the business has real value. So, we take business owners through this transformation of, the business is pretty much chaotic, no systems in place, bad team members, lack of profit. That really takes about a year, sometimes to 2 years, to make that fully hum along. But all of the while, they're working towards the goal of being able to take the 4-week vacation. And so putting those vacation tests into play where, you just turn off your stuff. For some of our clients coming in, turning off the cell phone for 2 hours or an hour at a time and not being instantly available to anybody is huge. And so we just that's a little sliver of success, and we're going to build on that. And over the course of time, set you up to be able to take your 4-week vacation.
Wow, that's great. So with our limited time, what I want to leave with this kind of final question here. What's one thing you want to leave the audience with? So small business owners, entrepreneurs, is there just one nugget you want to leave them with before we leave? And then I'll ask you, where they can find you and find out more information about what you do.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, remember that work supports life and not the other way around.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good quote. And then where can they find you? Where if they want more information?
All right. So if the 4-week vacation appeals to you, I think the best place to go is 4weekvacation.com. That's where you will get my 4-week vacation jumpstart guide. And that's really designed for you, no matter where you are in your entrepreneurial journey, to start thinking about, how do I get this business to run without me? I know that your listeners, they're already systems people, and they've fully bought in or are buying into the value of systems. So you guys, you're a little bit further ahead. So celebrate that and start thinking about, how do I set things up so I could be away from my business? Okay. So 4weekvacation.com. And then we have the Profit by Design podcast, and you can find us at profitbydesignpodcast.com too.
Okay, well, very good. All right, well, thanks, Sabrina, for sharing with us your business expertise with regards to hiring. I learned a lot. I've got a whole page of notes here. Very useful stuff, very practical stuff, and it's based on reality too, which I like. It's not just pie in the sky. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in today to the Work the System podcast. I look forward to sharing another podcast with you next week, helping you grow your business with systems so you can work less and make more. Thanks, everybody.